Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 15th day of December 2022. Well, just a couple more weeks and we're going to be into 2023. They always say time, either goes slowly for you or it goes fast. And I don't know, this year has just breezed by for us. I don't know. We had a little bit of snow last night. We discovered coming home from, my husband got the snowblower running. So we were able to actually get out of the driveway easily yesterday. We went to the store and we come home, and that's when we noticed the dome greenhouse. It's a PVC construction. We put it up, I think, in, God, I don't know, was it 2015 or something like that? And I had grapes growing over the top of it, and I mean, it's getting really, really cool, really. And now the top of it is just flat caved in. So I don't know what we're going to do there. I guess we're just going to have to take it apart, and we can finally get out there. There's so much snow out there right now that we can't, and there's nothing we can do for a while till all this melts. But the end of an era. I'm going to have to cut back my grapes, and so I'll lose all that growth over the top. And the raccoon family that used to, the last couple of years, has been going up on top of the dome and eating the grapes. I don't know what they're going to do. So, oh my goodness. Last 2 years we've hardly gotten any because of them. So I don't know. I guess we'll put the normal type of grape, arbor type deals that are lower to the ground. Make it so much easier for them to get my grapes this next year. So anyway, well, I think it lasted for what? Let's see, if it was 2015, almost 8 years. So I don't know. I guess that's something, but I don't know what we're going to do. But I don't think we're going to try and fix it or put it back up or anything. Let's see. I'm trying to get my chair in the right place here. So anyway, that's what's been going on at our house. I guess the snow was so wet, and it probably sat on top of the grapevines, and it was just too heavy for it. So down it went. It bent some of the poles, and so it's upsetting, but it is what it is. You just sort of have to accept things like that when you have snowy areas. Things are gonna, something usually, we'll have trees, branches that will break off and fall on this or that. And I lost an orchard ladder that way one time. And it's just, my husband didn't lay it down. He had it still sitting up against the barn, and there, down it went. It got broken in two. It folded itself in a way that it's not supposed to fold. So, things happen, but anyway. Sigh. Well, let me see where I've lost it. There it is. Okay. I wanted to go over today's forecast. I did it again for next week, and I kind of like the process. So I'm going to stick with it, I think, for a little while at least, until I decide to do something else. But anyway, today Jupiter governs. Today's the 15th again. So we have a 6 numerology for the day. Jupiter's in the third house, Pisces, but I think, it's next week. Yeah, where about midweek it's going to shift to Aries, I guess. I believe, if memory serves. I was working on this yesterday, so I think that's what I saw. Fehu and Populus are the runes. The second and sixth cosmic rays are governing most strongly today. So, although you love to explore new ideas and experiences, you may rebel this week against feeling controlled by others and be unwilling to compromise, especially if you believe they're dismissing your perspective or unique ideas. Remember that sensitivity and compassion will likely bring others around to your way of thinking, so be aware of the overall picture so that you don't alienate the very people whose support you need. Now, this section is just the Jupiter information for the week, and so that began actually last Sunday through Saturday. That's the week time period that I'm using. But the specific influences for today, how you transact with the group will determine just how supportive they are of your ideas. Carrying the rune Fehu with you may be helpful to stay humble and respectful and focused on the task at hand. If you play your cards right and express yourself with compassion and wisdom, you may find that others will follow you literally anywhere. It's all about how you want to come across to people, and sometimes how you say things matters. And so Jupiter has this real expansive energy about it. So it can either work for or against you. You can either have no impulse control. You can lack boundaries. You can be maybe a little too pushy. It especially depends on where, if there's any Mars transits with Jupiter, there could be, some out of control conversations there. But Jupiter just makes everything bigger. So think about that on Thursdays. If you're feeling like, you're kind of losing control, well, rein it back in if you can. So anyway, that's enough of that. Let's take a look at what the rune is today from the Elder Futhark. Well, come on. There we go. We have Hagalaz. One of the Norn runes. There's 3, Hagalaz, Isa, and Nothes. Hagalaz is the 9th rune of the Elder Futhark. It's known as the Witch rune. It's transformation within a fixed framework. You can look at the sides of Hagalaz there, Isa on both sides. And you're looking at, in the center here, you're looking at Kenaz kind of skewed in both directions. So that would be the transformative light within this fixed framework of Isa on either side. I think that just like in witchcraft, you're trying to transform something into something better. And I think with Hagalaz, that's really what we're doing. It means hail. It means just basically, though, transformation. And without necessarily destroying everything in the process. Hail comes down. Yes, it can be messy. We had big hail here in the 90s one time. It was about golf ball size, and it destroyed a lot of stuff. It damaged our cars. There were dead birds everywhere. I mean, it really was a mess and it finally melted, and in our shadier areas took a while. Took a couple of weeks actually for it to melt. And so hail can be extremely destructive. It can be very transformative, but then all of a sudden when the ice melts, you see, then it's gone. You don't even know that it was there, other than the devastation it leaves behind. But in this case, I don't think that that's what Hagalaz is truly saying. I don't think it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. In other words, you make some adjustments maybe today. But let's take a look at the Geomancy rune. We'll discover that by throwing down the 4 elemental ones. Let's see what we have here. I put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Oh, well, that's cool. That's easy. Vaya. Vaya are single dots all the way down, so it's an active principle. It means new path. A new path is opening. So if we're going to combine Hagalaz and Isa, or Hagalaz and Vaya together, then there has to be some kind of transformation in order for that new path for you to even be able to see it, maybe. I don't know. You have to transform your perceptions, maybe, to recognize an opportunity when it's coming your way. That could be one interpretation of that. But let's see what the cards have to say. Maybe it's actually taking us in a different direction than that. But or it could be that the new path that opens is transformative. It could also be that. But let's see if we have any path-oriented stuff here in the cards. I'll just shuffle a little bit more. I've already shuffled somewhat this morning. Cut the deck. Well, We have the Seven of Wands, which we just had. I don't know if it was last time or last Thursday or something, but we had Seven of Wands already. Standing your ground, maybe. Then we also have the Five of Cups, and then we have Justice, Lady Justice, card 11 from the Major Arcana. So 7 and 5 is 12, reduces to 3. We'll keep the 11 alone because that's a master number. So having to do with, I mean, you could say 3 could be perception, just communication, creativity, mind, body, spirit, balance, other kinds of triplicities like past, present, and future. Let's start, though, with the 7. Here we have a guy standing up higher than these other people are that have got the staffs up, kind of pointed up toward him, almost like they are trying to attack him. And he's standing up there with his own staff. Wands. They use staffs for wands here in the Rider-Waite. But he's standing his ground. Now, either he's defending himself from something he's done that these folks down below here are not happy about, or he's we talked about this before, where it could be, say you are a business owner and you've carved out a little niche for yourself, and you've got some other competing businesses doing the same type of work you are, offering the same kind of thing, but maybe you've gotten something that's, maybe drawing in more people than the rest of them are. And so, you have to be aware of what their whole perspective is, how they're doing business and all of that in order to defend your own space, your own business. So there could be that kind of energy here. But on the other hand, he's getting up above everything. He's trying to understand the whole picture of what's coming in on him. Maybe there's a lot of challenges that he's facing, a lot of obstacles in his path, and he's trying to defend against them. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. 7 is a number of observation. It's also, we've talked about this before, it's imagine the scales when you think the number 7, where you're letting the two pans come to a rest and observing what's really the truth of all of that. And so he's definitely above it all. And he's observing, isn't he? Whatever this means. This can go a variety of different ways depending on how you see it. Now, here he may have to face some truth, some emotional truth about what he's defending. Maybe he's being too rigid. Maybe he's trying to hang on to something that maybe is just a little, it's not going to really get him where he wants to go. And so the challenges that he faces, evidenced by the wands down here, maybe they're just saying, well, look, they're suggesting that maybe you're on the wrong path, but he won't let go of it. There could be that. So if this is maybe a little more ill-dignified, and on the negative side of things, it could be that. And when we pair it with the 5 of Cups, here you see a man in a black cloak, a black cape. I think it's a man. It looks like a man. Looks like he's got his hair tied back in a ponytail. You see the castle off in the distance, a small one. You see an arched bridge over there. You see there's the castle and there's the bridge. You got a small stream or creek or something. It doesn't look like a very large river or anything. Passing by there. He's close to the water's edge. You see 3 cups have fallen over, and you can see one has spilled its contents right here. You see that. And you see 2 behind him. He's not really even aware of him. This is a card where some changes happen, and he's had to deal with the sorrow of it. 5 is about change. It's about protection. It's also the pentagram. It's about freedom versus restriction. But it seems to me that when you couple it with the 7 here, if he's in fact defending ideas that maybe others are challenging him on, maybe it's not the right path to be on. So maybe some transformation, like with Hagalaz, needs to happen so that a different path can open. And here it appears that emotions have gotten the better of him, assuming it's the same individual, which it doesn't look like it, but maybe it is. We'll just say for the sake of argument that it is. And so he's had to rethink some things here, and reassess the situation from a higher perspective, maybe. And let go of emotions that are keeping him stuck, perhaps in one creative idea or one particular opportunity, one particular direction. And so now he's realized that maybe I overstepped, maybe I'm really not where I need to be, and I need to let go of some stuff. And it's going to be emotional. It's going to be hard, especially if you have to really, really switch up. And move on to something new entirely. But whatever is keeping him in a defensive stance here may not be justified. And if it's not, then that's going to bring some sorrow, right? When you make that realization that, hey, I really am on the wrong track, and I need to switch up. Maybe something legal has come into play. Maybe he's done something here where other businesses maybe are going to sue him. I don't know, But here you bring in Lady Justice, and you see her sitting on. She's in a red gown. She's got looks like well, it looks kind of it's maybe green on the outside, but on the inside it looks like maybe her cloak is still red, the cape is still red. You see the red drape in the background. You see the two pillars, which is about balance. It's also about justice and equilibrium. You see her holding the sword to spirit. And so there's a higher level of justice here. And you see her holding the scales in balance here with her left hand. With justice, you're looking at balanced reason. You're looking at justice, equilibrium, decision, legal issues, balance, treading the narrow path, or the middle way, if you will. And so maybe he just got ahead of himself and was doing some things that really aren't going to get him where he needs to go, and maybe there's some legal consequences to it. And so he realizes with the 5, I'm going to take another card here because it just feels like I'm missing part of the story. Maybe we'll get something, maybe we won't. But it just seems to me that if justice is here, he either needs to regain some balance about what he's doing in terms of the choices he's making, or there's something legal that's going to go on here, and he's just had to accept that maybe he's overstepped, and others are the IRS guys at the door, kind of thing. That would be the 6 staffs below him. He may this self-defense up here maybe is not going to take him anywhere. There may be no defending what he's done if that's what's going on. And you have, again, with the 5, he's had to come to terms emotionally with all of it. And so maybe it's just he's dealing with a situation that could be just too much. And he needs to find some kind of balanced reason to in his decision to do something. Now with the 11, you're talking a master number for enlightenment, awakening. So he needs to wake up maybe and realize that either the direction he's going is not going to be useful for him, or something. If it goes in the legal direction, again, maybe he's overstepped in whatever he's done, and now someone's going to sue him for it. And he needs to deal with the emotional loss that he's got to tell his family, he's got to tell his spouse, what have you. I mean, whatever scenario this is. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, we have the Empress here. Again, and I'm going to do this differently here. These 2 cards numerologically come down to 3. They reduce to 3. All right, 7 and 5 is 12. 1 and 2 is 3. So the numerology of these match the numerology of this. And so the Empress is card 3 of the major arcana. It's about love, fertility, the mother aspect, beauty, giving birth to something, abundance, success. So something has to give here in order to, my screen's only so big, in order to be able to, in other words, there's a feeling here of you have to be gentle on yourself. You've done something here that you're experiencing some loss about. And so with the Empress, there's a certain amount of receptiveness here. So maybe what this is suggesting here is that they need to drop resistance to whatever is going on here, and in the 7 and in the 5. I mean, in a sense, that's what's happened here. He's dropped resistance, and he's just in loss. There's an emotional loss to this whole thing. So whatever is going on here, again, it could be that he's trying to achieve some abundance here, but apparently it's just not going to happen, and he needs to attack this from a different standpoint. Whether or not it's a legal one, I don't know. Maybe he hasn't done anything wrong here, and he has to take some legal action against whatever is happening here in this scene that he's having to defend himself against. Maybe there's been some business practices on the part of the other businesses, if that's what this is talking about, and he's got to take a look at, what are they trying to do to him to try to get him out of business, so he's no longer competing with them. Maybe his business is just something that's going to take a lot of business away from them, and so he's having to stand his ground. He's realizing that there's an emotional component to the change that's happened. Maybe he's losing business. Maybe they're the ones slandering him. I don't know. But it just seems to be there's this outlier of awakening to some kind of a just truth that, again, maybe he's not on, maybe what he's trying to give birth to is not going to happen, maybe. This is a tough one because literally I'm feeling my focus going in a bunch of different directions here. Let's just go back to the runes and try to reorient here. If we're looking at this from the standpoint of Vaya or a new path, some transformation may need to happen. So if you're getting obstacles in the way of a new opportunity that you're trying to forge, maybe you've got to let go of some of the focus that you have, some of the commitment you have. This could be the water element, could also be about commitment. Maybe the path that you're on isn't exactly right, and so maybe you just need to do some transformation, like with Hagalaz here, that it's implying, so that you get on a better path that's based on compassion and love and wisdom, and maybe a little more, maybe a more receptive, a less, because here this is going to be fire oriented and this is going to be earth oriented. So maybe he's just gotten out ahead of himself and he's unable to deal with the challenges that are happening. And so he's got to rethink that and drop resistance to what's going on. Drop resistance further and make some major change, because this is a major arcana card. So it's soul archetype. There could be some kind of awakening that needs to happen with justice in card 11. If you were to combine the two together and forget that that's a master number, which I just don't do, I just keep them out alongside. I don't include them in any numerology. But if you did, that would be what? 14, which is reduces to 5, which again is a different path, is a different change. And so with the transformation, with Hagalaz, a new path can then open. This may be a little more realistic for you. So it could be with the 7 then, let's just read it this way. With the 7, you're having to defend yourself against stuff that's just maybe too much. too much coming in. Maybe it's signaling to you that even though you've got this opportunity and you may stick with the same opportunity, there just needs to be some tweaking of it. You got to let go of maybe some of the hopes and dreams you had about it. Maybe they weren't realistic. To me, I see the black cloak and I think, well, okay, we need to return to essentially the goddess, and we need to return to the void and rethink something here, that we've gotten ahead of ourselves emotionally and maybe made a commitment that really isn't going to take you anywhere. And then if you need to really seriously think about what this new opportunity is birthing for you. Are you able to produce the kind of experience and opportunity and success that you want to have? Is that path going to take you there? And are you going to be able to remain in some kind of reasoned balance about it all? Are you going, if there's something legal involved here, are you paying attention to what the laws of the city are, of the state, of, federally? Are you paying attention to that? I know from personal experience that if you have a business and you have liability policy, commercial liability policy, for example, and you don't abide by the rules of the city or county or what have you, and you had to file a claim, and the claim was due to something you did that was not legal, they're not going to pay out on it, right? So you have to keep your ducks in a row, your I's dotted and your T's crossed, and you've got to follow the laws in order to do what you're doing. Maybe this guy simply took a shortcut to get what he wanted, and now he's got all this stuff coming in on him, and he's had to rethink things. It's clear it's not going to go the way he wants to, so he's dealing with some disappointment here, right? But he's got to think about it. What can I birth? You want to align Hagalaz with the Empress, you can do that. And what kind of transformation can I make? How can I rethink what I want to do so that I'm doing something that's positive and productive and is actually going to get me somewhere, and it's also going to be legal. Sometimes people take shortcuts. I know someone who's doing that, who's not following the law, and ultimately about something, it's property issues, and ultimately he's probably going to get sued, probably for it, because he's not staying in line with being honest and forthright and above board and all of that. And when you do that, you cause yourself all kinds of grief. I remember after we moved here, it was probably, I don't know, maybe in the first 10 years or so we were living here, there was a home that was being sold. Somebody had converted a barn. Beautiful barn, big, huge barn, and they converted it into a house. Problem is, they didn't get a permit to do that. So the county still thought it was a barn, and they're wanting to sell it for I don't know, what was $500,000 or something. I mean, it was big money. It was a lot of property too. It wasn't just, a barn on a small piece of land. It was a lot of property. So, I mean, but the problem is they still think it's a barn. Well, so I don't know how it all resolved, but they probably had to pay fines. And so whatever they made from the property sale, I don't even know if that particular one ultimately went through. It was back in the days before you could just see the newspaper, and if it wasn't in there anymore, then it wasn't in there anymore, right? And if it wasn't on the local news, then you just didn't know. You can't not like now where you can follow things, online and see what ultimately happened with something. But or either that or nobody followed up on it. I don't know. But it was really, it was a gorgeous piece of property, gorgeous barn that they converted. I thought, wow, that is really cool. But turns out it wasn't so cool because it was basically a pole building. And what you need to have to put up a pole building back in those times was nothing. You didn't even need a permit. And so then they decided to put up remodel it and make it into a living place. Well, you can't do that. You just can't do that. And so again, I don't know what happened, but again, they got out ahead of themselves and thought they could do things and scooted on by. And that didn't happen. And this kind of reminds me of that, where maybe you get out ahead of yourself and you do something, you cut some corners. Now all of a sudden these challenges are coming in your way, and maybe you have to give up. There's going to be some disappointment because you've got to give up what you're doing or readjust it or whatever, so that you're in sync with laws and rules and expectations and all of that, so that you're not doing something that's going to harm another business, for example, or harm the customers that you're going to be serving, something like that, if that's what this is about. But again, he just needs a different focus. He needs a different structure, and needs to take another look at it so that a better path can open and so that he can accomplish what he wants to accomplish. A lot of people take the easy way out. They cut corners and all of a sudden they're left holding the bag. And that's kind of what this feels like. And again, the outlier is what is this really telling us? Is he being sued? Does he need to defend himself? Or is it just a matter of gaining some understanding of what the legal issues are and bringing yourself in alignment with them? It could be something like that. So lots of different ways. And this was the thing when we had the 7 the last time we had it, if it was either Monday or maybe last Thursday, because it seems recent. I don't know. This card can be read from so many different perspectives. It just, again, depends on the other cards around them. It's just one of those cards where, it could define a lot of things. So I wish I could be more specific, but it just seems like something is happening where you have to defend yourself against obstacles or things coming in on you. Then there's some disappointment, and then you've got to rethink how you want to birth this thing into existence. It almost as if we need a better one might have been Birkenau here, because it also talks about a new path and instead of Hagalaz. But the idea is that something has to transform here. So there has to be a change in whatever this is describing. Something has to change. I mean, it says it with the 5, and you may experience some disappointment, but it may ultimately get you on a better path. And having, the 2 major arcana cards at the end signals to me that some kind of higher awareness, some sort of acceptance of a higher truth is going to have to come into play here in order to resolve what's happening in the 7 and in the 5. And so whether that higher truth is the local laws of the city or county in which you live or what have you, or if it's just finding your own inner truth, maybe. Maybe Hagalaz is really more defining the 11, the justice card. So, but I think that definitely if you're on a new path and it's not working out, accept the disappointment for what it is, learn from it, figure out what you need to do to regroup, and give birth to something that could ultimately be even better than you thought of. So we'll just say that's probably general enough. And you can apply it to all kinds of things. But if you're working with tarot, and especially if you're learning tarot, some of these cards, like the 7 of Wands, I mean, you can read that from a lot of different angles. Just depends, again, on what the other cards are. It just feels like we're still missing a card, but that's okay. I don't think it's probably not going to give us really any more information than what we have. So I don't think it's going to define this any further. It doesn't feel like that to me. So I guess that's it. Anyhow, stay warm, everybody. I don't know if tonight is the night where it gets down to 7 or 8 or something here. I remember when I was growing up, we lived in Alaska, and when we were living in Wasilla, there was a night where it got to be 56 below. And you had to plug your cars in and stuff, because otherwise the oil pan, it wouldn't be warm enough to even, the car wouldn't even start, right? So you plugged your car in, but that time we didn't go anywhere. My mother's like, oh, okay, we're not going to the store today. So, and I was little. I think I was either 7 or 8. when that happened, but I remember she told me it was 56 below. It's like, wow. Because up there at that time, in the 60s, you would have at least a month of 30 below. And that's when it never got light. It might get like at the most dusky, but it was always like a twilight type of a dusk. You didn't see the sun. It just never, and that went on for at least a month. And so there was 30 days where you'd have like 30 below, like a month of 30 below, and you'd have to walk to school, and trudging in the snow at 30 below. So you dressed for it. I mean, but here, I mean, we're not. Yeah, I'm just glad the snowblower got working. It's new. We bought it in 2017 and we've only used it a couple of times, but there was something wrong with it from the get-go. And we never took it back in, and now the warranty's up on it. So fortunately my husband's a mechanic, and he, in his former life, and he pretty much can fix anything. So he used to work on Harleys, and he was a really great Harley mechanic, but he can pretty much fix anything, and I knew he'd fix it. I knew he'd come up with what was wrong with it, but you're dealing with really cold temperatures, and he's having to do it outside, and he doesn't have parts, and so he's having to take things apart in the car apart and clean everything, and finally, man, it got going yesterday, and it was so cool. He had that driveway done in record time, and so praise the goddess for him anyway. And we'll be married next May, 44 years. So I sort of depend on him for all these kinds of things, and for solutions that I can never come up with. He's got them, and so it's very cool. So hopefully we don't have any more issues with it, just in case we get more snow and we have to do that again. But at least he knows where to go on it now. Instead of having to figure out what it is, he knows now. It could just be a defect in the way this thing is designed, but it might just be that from the factory they ran it once and shut it down and drained the gas out, but they didn't put anything, because I don't know, something in the carb was wrong and it was plugged, and and if you don't know how to fix that, you're just stuck. So, and I'm fortunate to have a husband who does. So anyway, that's enough about that. Thanks for watching. And, again, if you're in the cold areas, stay warm, and have a blanket nearby. And I sit under a blanket, and I do my writing, and, whatever. But I've always got some kind of a blanket near me just in case, because I don't like to have a really warm house. I like to have it somewhat cool. But, when it gets like this outside, you don't really have a choice. So anyway, have a good weekend, and, be good to yourself, be good to one another. Blessed be.